Landscape photography is such a wonderful thing, isn't it? A hobby, a pastime, a job, whatever it is for you, it gets us outside, it opens our eyes to the world, and it's such a fulfilling art form. I genuinely love every aspect of it, even failing. And to be fair, I do that quite a bit. But over the years, I've realised there are a few common techniques that I keep coming back to, and they help me to bring a photograph to life, if you will, and helps me to make images that are fulfilling to me personally. So in this week's video, I want to share 3 techniques that I often use when I'm out taking my landscape photos. The first technique is connection, and by that I mean tying the elements of a composition together so the scene feels balanced and complete. Now, quite often when we look at a scene, there are sort of parts that can feel a little bit untidy or unbalanced or even disconnected. And building a connection between those elements is a great way to bind everything together. In this first example shot, you can see the lovely arch and rock formations, but there's a section of ocean that feels awkward. We know the ocean connects, but we can't see that link in the actual image, so visually it feels broken. Now compare that to the wider crop and we get more of the ocean in view, and there's a better visual flow, and it connects the foreground to the midground in a much stronger way, I think. Even though that peak at the back is obstructing the path, we can see that the two connect a little easier, and for that reason it's a little bit more easy on the eye. Here's another example from the Carmarthen Hills. The first photo for me lacks connection, mainly because of the midground. The lake was a little bit choppy, so I didn't quite get the reflection I was looking for to fill that midground section. So instead what I did was I moved around the lake, shifted my emphasis to the foreground, and filled that midground section up with what I thought was a more pleasing element to the scene. So yeah, eliminating the midground almost entirely, which helped that foreground connect with the background in a much stronger way. And I think really focusing on the interesting thing is probably the right thing to do, certainly in this instance. This woodland scene is another example of a broken connection. So my idea was to create a kind of portal looking through into another world, if you will. But 3 things kind of make this shot fail. Firstly, the foreground is really heavy and the background just isn't strong enough to balance against that. And then there's a branch that cuts across the top, which acts like a blocker for the eye. In woodland photography especially, blockers can really kill the flow of an image. So compare that to this next shot where the path leads the eye right through the trees with nothing in the way. It feels more connected. You know, your eye can wander right through this wonderful glade of oak trees right across the frame, so you get to see every individual tree without you feeling like you're having your pathway obstructed. And in this waterfall scene, the zigzagging flow links the whole frame together from the foreground right through to the back. So yeah, connection is something I'm always looking for. Flow, balance, and making sure nothing blocks the eye. I don't always get it right, of course, but honestly, I think you learn more from your failed attempts than you probably do the successful ones. So yeah, it's definitely a learning curve, isn't it? So my next technique is to be brave. Now, when I first moved to Pembrokeshire about, I think it was 4 years ago now, I remember getting a comment online in one of these YouTube videos that said something like, "Good luck finding anything good over there. Every photo has been done a million times already." And it was such a ridiculous comment, but for some reason it just stuck with me. Now, Pembrokeshire is an incredible county, you know, it's full of stunning landscapes and seascapes, and yes, many of them have been photographed countless times. But here's the thing, if you only go after those postcard shots that you've seen before, you're never really going to find fulfillment in your photography, I don't think. For me, being brave is about turning your back on the obvious composition and then looking for something different. Even in the most popular of spots, there are unique photographs to be found if you just allow yourself the time to observe and to explore. For example, here's a shot from one of my one-to-one workshops I ran recently. We're at one of the most photographed spots in Pembrokeshire, a real photographer's paradise. But instead of just shooting the obvious view, we explored the area looking for something different. When the light got good, of course, we still took the shot of the wider scene, but we allowed ourselves to experiment as well. Another example is from this shot here, which was taken in waterfall country. And these falls have been shot thousands of times, but if you get in close and focus on parts of the scene, you can find compositions within a composition. And this black and white shot here could have been taken absolutely anywhere because you don't see the whole of the waterfall, and for that reason it makes it feel more unique. So my point here is simple. There's nothing wrong with taking that classic well-known shot, but don't just stop there, you know. Be brave enough to look for your own take on the scene, and that's where you'll find real fulfillment, or at least that's how it feels to me anyway. Yeah, that comment's really got stuck in my head for some reason. I'm sure I've probably mentioned it before on the channel, but yeah, I guess it's maybe spurring me on a little bit to want to get out there and try to find my own unique compositions, which is always a good thing. So the third technique is colour simplicity. Now, colour is a wonderful thing. It can completely change the mood of a photo, can't it? But if there's too much going on, a photo can quickly become busy and chaotic. And that's why I often think about the colour palette just as much as the actual composition itself. Now, I've talked about colour theory a lot over the years on this channel, and I kind of deep dive into it a lot in my landscape photography ebook, which is about composition. So if you fancy learning more about that, be sure to check out the link in the video description, which will take you to the book. But anyway, here's 3 shots I think work well. Now, the first is a spring woodland with wild garlic, mainly just greens and earthy reds. Pretty simple, complementary colours, which I think works really well. And the second is this rock pool, blue reflections from the sky with warm orange tones in the rocks and the leaf. Again, 2 dominant colours, that keeps things clean and simple as well. And in this last one, we've got early morning buds with golden light set against the cool, shaded areas, reflecting off of the blue sky again. Now, here's a couple of shots that I didn't think worked so well. In this woodland shot, there's too much autumn colour fighting for attention, in my opinion, and the whole scene feels really messy because of it. Same with this one, loads of colour, but no clear subject. This final woodland scene, however, kind of feels less busy, even though the composition is really chaotic. And that's really because the colour palette is restrained. There's only really a couple of different shades going on here, so the overall composition just feels a lot calmer. So yeah, I'm often looking for scenes with just 2 or 3 dominant colours in the whole scene. It's not always easy, is it? But when it works, it really does help to simplify the image. Anyway, I'd just like to quickly talk about my van, which is actually at the garage today for a safety recall, so I'm hoping that comes back okay. But yeah, I've been toying with the idea of either putting solar panels on the roof or maybe getting some kind of alternator charger to charge my power source within the van, which is one of those big EcoFlow battery banks. But I've decided to go with this here, and this isn't sponsored, by the way. This one here is an alternator charger. So I've just purchased this, and I'm going to install this in the next couple of weeks, and that's going to help me keep the battery bank topped up. So this will take an 800 watts from my alternator and power it straight into the battery itself. So yeah, 800 watts an hour, which is quite a lot. I've checked out my alternator to make sure it's strong enough to cope with it, and it is. So that's good. But the beauty of this one is you can change the amount of wattage that you're putting in. So this will charge my complete battery bank in 2.5 hours while I'm driving. But you can, yeah, reduce the wattage back. So I think what I'll probably do is maybe have it on 300 watts or something like that. So it's not putting too much load on my alternator, just to keep the battery bank topped up. But yeah, I think maybe if I'm out for multiple days and I need to put more charge into it, then I can just up the wattage input going back in. The beauty of this one is if your car battery goes flat, you can reverse charge, so you can take charge from your battery bank into your car battery. So theoretically speaking, the car battery or the van battery shouldn't go flat, or if it does, at least I'll be able to recharge it. So yeah, little project I've got coming up in the next couple of weeks for the van. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video of some of my successes and failures. Hope it helped you in some way. Like I said, there's no hard or fixed rules here on this channel. You know, it's all about exploring different possibilities when we're out taking photos. If you enjoyed it, maybe you like the one up the top there too, and over on the other side is a link to my photography ebook, which we mentioned earlier, and that might give you some inspiration as well for your compositions when you're out and about with your camera. Anyway, Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Take care, and I hope to see you again next week.